If there's one thing Zimbabwe will never run out of, it's big personalities, especially our women. Our mothers, our grandmothers, you just know it. Full of charisma, loud in the best way, big personalities. The kind of women who in another generation, they would be global stars, household names. When I started this podcast, I dreamed about sitting across from people like that. The kinds of people who leave you scrambling for a pen to write down what they just said. Today, in this episode, that dream shows up in full force because I am talking to the final boss of Zim Aunties. She's a firebrand, a force. I've actually listened to this conversation 3 or 4 times already, and not just in editing, but because it exhilarates me. I had my notebook in hand. I was soaking up every gem. This is exactly what I imagined when I started this podcast, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. It's a long episode because honestly, the gems, there's nothing I could cut out. So lean in. You're about to meet the final boss of Zim Aunties herself. Welcome back to Extraordinary Conversations with askChenai, the podcast where we sit down with incredible people, often of Zimbabwean descent, to have the kind of conversations that don't usually make it to LinkedIn or TikTok or your conference panels. We talk about life, struggle, reinvention, identity, the stuff that shapes who we are. Today's guest is someone who holds a special place in my heart. She's a close friend of my mother's and someone who I've admired my entire life. Auntie Margaret Chidzonga is a Zimbabwean entrepreneur. She founded a wellness spa called Vimbai, a wife, a trained marriage counsellor, a mother to 3 boys, one of whom is none other than Margaret Chidzonga, the actor, filmmaker, and former Big Brother Africa finalist. But this conversation isn't about Munya, it's about her. The girl she once was, the mother she became, the entrepreneur who she is, and the wisdom that she carries from a life lived across countries, across cultures, from Zimbabwe to Switzerland and beyond. This is her story.
Thank you very much, you girls, for inviting me. Thank you, Chenai, for thinking of that. When you asked me, my immediate answer was no. I don't want to be on podcast. I don't even know what it is. And then I said to one of my a cousin, I said, Mwanosha Mariangu has invited me to do this, that, and that. They are, Sis Magia lying, you love yourself. You would love to just show off. And she went on and on. So I looked at her, I said, what, am I a show off? I didn't know that. Anyway, I'll take it. And she says, if you can't speak English, so I said, I went to school. I'll do my best. I'm sure, English is my second language. We'll do our best.
You cannot hide yourself from the world. You're too good. You're too good to be hidden from the world, Auntie Maggie. Do you know what? As I was saying before, I wanted you on the podcast because I was thinking of who are really, really interesting people I know, Zimbabwean women with extraordinary stories. And your name was one of the first names that came to my mind. But I was a bit embarrassed to approach you directly.
Oh, you were embarrassed to talk to me direct?
So I messaged your son because I said, I was embarrassed to ask in case you thought I was crazy. So that's why I asked your son. I said, what do you think? Do you think if I ask her, what do you think she'll say if I ask her? And he said without a question, my mom, ask her. If that woman was in your generation, she would even have her own talk show. She was born in the wrong generation.
Oh, really?
He said she would have her own reality show. My mom is a star. She will love it. And then I said, okay, give me her number. Then I asked you, and I think this is going to be one of our most popular episodes. Just you wait and see. So, Auntie Maggie, we always begin our podcasts by trying to keep it fun and get a little bit of your personality front and center. So we want you to imagine you are stepping onto a massive stage with thousands of people in the crowd. But before you walk out, a hype song plays, and it's a theme song that captures your essence, your vibe, your journey. What is your song?
Okay, I've got several, but I chose UB40, which during our time was the in thing. And I've got this one. I'm sure it is Kingston Town. Do you know that one? UB40 Kingston. Or red wine. Okay, I'll make it easy.
I know UB40. How does the Kingston Town one go? We even went to see UB40 live last year at a festival in England. Which one is Kingston Town?
How does it go?
I'm one of those who can sing. That's why I said, let's go for red wine, which you all know.
I know that one.
Next time I'll sing for you. I'll practice.
Auntie Maggie, why is that your theme song? Why that song?
It just gave me like release of life. No care in the world. I mean, when UB40 came to Zimbabwe, I went to see them, and would you believe it? I was dancing away the whole time. I did not sit down, and I was over 60, it's over 65. So it just gives me, no care in the world. I'm just having a good time. This is my life. Yes. Something like that. I don't know how to, to express it further than that.
I love this.
When did UB40 come to Zimbabwe, Auntie Maggie?
Well, 2 years ago, recently, but I think it was after COVID.
So you were actually at this concert 2 years ago. Appa, I was thinking you were saying how when I was a young woman, it's manje that you were there at this concert.
I feel so young. I didn't know that.
It was, the frontman is now ancient. I mean, like me. And when they came, I thought, it was going to be all these youngsters. But I saw him. And, he was reliving our olden times. It was fantastic. But it was right here in Harare, somewhere near here.
Who did you go with, Auntie Maggie?
I went with my husband.
Ooh.
I went with my husband because we all love UB40.
Yes,
It was formed in Birmingham, where we lived. I met my husband in Birmingham, so that, we were actually reliving our Birmingham days because UB40 was formed in Birmingham.
That is so cute.
That's cute. I love it. It was a date night.
Yes, it started around 8, but of course there were curtain raisers or whatever you call it until 10, and it was 10 to after midnight, and they were still playing. They did not even stop, and we wanted more.
Like, I want to grow up and be like 60 and going for concerts, all night concerts and stuff. Aunt Maggie, if I were to meet you in the street and I was to ask you, who are you? Not what's on your business card, not your business profile, but who is Aunt Maggie?
Okay, Margaret is a girl. I'm the firstborn in a family of 5, 3 men and two women. I'm the firstborn and my sister is the lastborn. Unfortunately, one of my brothers died this year in January, so there are 4 of us left. My mother was a teacher. She's also late. My father was a health assistant who went on to become an inspector. So we grew up in a family of professionals, African professionals at that time. And being a Mdomeni, he was moving from place to place. We lived in Bulawayo, Gwanda, Chinoi, Gweru, and Harare. So that's the sort of life that we lived with my parents. My primary started in Chinoi, sub A and sub B. I'm sure you don't know what that is.
No, I don't.
I suppose that's your grade 1 and grade 2, but it was sub A, sub B, and then you'd go to standard 1 up to 6, and then you go to secondary school. So I started in Chinoi, and then we came to Harare. That's when I went to a local primary school called Mofu. And I was at school for the first primary bit, and I was sent to boarding school to Monte Cassino Girls High School. I didn't go to secondary school there, I went to a boarding school called St. Benedict's, where I did Form 1 and Form 2. And then I went to Malawi, where I did Form 3 to 5. And then after that, I went to Mpilo, where I trained as a nurse.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to the UK, where I trained as a midwife. And then further education from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Auntie Maggie, I didn't know. So you spent, why were you in Malawi?
You won't believe this. My auntie was there with her husband, a minister of religion. So that's the time where after Form 2, Form 3 places were very difficult to get. They were the lucky ones who would go straight and not be told to look for a place elsewhere. But me and a friend, I visited my aunt, and my friend was visiting family. And that time, I don't know, there was something about Malawi. They had this kind of schooling that they were taking most of the foreigners or whatever. And I'm not sure whether I can say the girls there in Malawi were not encouraged to go to school at that time. But there we were. I had passed Form 2. So my auntie said, you can wait, because their school system was British. Where their summer would be in June, July, August. And yet I went in January. So I went into school and enjoyed it, and therefore stayed until I had finished my Form 5.
Nice.
They actually sent me to boarding school, my auntie and her husband. So I ended up going to school in Malawi. You know, my O-levels were done in Malawi.
Talk about adventure.
What was Malawi like back then? Because I hear a lot of different things about Malawi. What kind of a place was it?
You know, okay, I was young. For me, it was like a big holiday. But the people, the one thing I know is the people are very friendly. When we were going to boarding school, we were looked after by people we didn't know. And we never really heard about all these bad things like stealing or whatever. You know, it was like, Malawi was like a boarding school with well-behaved people. And the president was Kamuzu Banda, and, you know, he ruled the country with an iron fist. So everything was so orderly. We didn't put on trousers, no shorts, no short skirts. It had to be decent dressing. No goof out like you are doing. I'm sure you would be put in prison. You would be put in prison. So that's Malawi for me. Up to now, I still romanticize on that. I've been back to and fro, but I still hold that goodness of Malawi up to this day.
And the traveling back and forth, you know, for school to Malawi and then back to Zimbabwe, how was that for you?
It was bad. We either went by bus or a train. Do you know that the train would spend 3 days on the way? It would stop. It would stop in one of the places. You'd come out, cook your food, and eat, and then the train goes 3 days on the way. And then we alighted in southern Malawi, a place called Nsanje, which is the southern tip. And then, of course, it would continue to Limbe or Blantyre. Limbe was the town, and Blantyre was it wasn't the capital city, but it was one of the cities like Bulawayo.
Okay.
Yeah. So the traveling was bad. It was really bad. I mean, we would pass through Mozambique coast, and they were so hostile. And, the girls had to be looked after because they just would abduct anyone, and, you would never be heard of or something like that. There were such stories.
And you still continue to go in?
Yes, we were in groups. It was never, as individuals. There were so many of us going. We were, batches and batches of people. So that's how we traveled, yes.
And you said you went by the Mozambique coast. That's why the train took 3 days, because it wasn't direct. It kind of went a really long way.
Yes, that's true. But if we had gone by bus, we'd go via Mutoko. But that was the shortest route. That would be overnight. The next day you are in a port place where you then take another bus to Blantyre or wherever you are going to school. Yeah.
And you went to boarding school very young. That's common in Zimbabwe, but it's... I have to say, I'm Zimbabweans. How old were you when you went to boarding school, Auntie Maggie?
Okay, what was that? 11, around 11, 12. That's when we went to boarding school. But that time, it was considered the best method of educating girls. I don't know, there was something about staying at home, you will not concentrate on your work, because the girls are always working very hard. I mean, you were mostly domestic, looking after the family at a very young age. So going to boarding school would have been the best for the children then. So boarding school was really the first option for parents, because they believed that girls, children who went to school, to boarding school, were well looked after. And these boarding schools were church orientated, and we went to a Roman Catholic one, which was I don't know whether I would call it the best. It was so strict. I would call it the worst, because the strictness was just too much.
I always have too many questions, and I'm trying not to jump in, because we're supposed to take it in turns. So then I always want to say something else, but I'm trying to give Vimbai room to also ask her questions.
I'm enjoying this and I'm absorbing, and I do have questions, so you go, I'm fine.
And back in the day, Auntie Maggie, what was your personality like? What kind of a child were you? Were you very curious, quiet? Were you rebellious? What was it like at home? I know you mentioned being from a big family. You mentioned a lot of time in Malawi. What kind of moments from that time can reflect your personality or your experiences?
When I tell you what I was, you won't believe it, and even my friend, your mother, will doubt it. I was very quiet. The brother who came after me was, all over the place, all over me, but I was always quiet, serious, and of course, I was groomed to be a leader, to look after the four behind me and make sure that I also send them to school when I finish school. That sort of a thing. It was a serious way of bringing up children. But my character was really formed through my parents. My father was a very strict person, disciplinarian. He just believed that children should do what they are told to do. And he never really spoiled me and my brother. That was the time for teen time. I don't know whether you ever came across that way. We go and listen to bands and dance away. I was not allowed to go there. And of course, I couldn't go because I didn't have the modern dresses. My friends had sisters who were nurses, so they would dress so beautifully. And my father would say, I can't buy you, we used to call them ready-made dresses, if you bought it from the shop. So my mother would always get one of her dress, then model it, remodel it for me to fit in. And I was always ashamed because the people would laugh at me. And then my father would say, I'm afraid, if you want to put on a red-made dress, you have to work for it. When you are working, you put on whatever you want. But during my time, his time, you cannot put on anything that is ready-made, because then it will disturb you from concentrating on school.
Right.
And then, of course, that personality of leadership started then. My mother was a very serious person as well. I think she was also born before her time, because she was really outgoing, assertive, and she was also a leader. So I had both parents really modeling me for leadership. And my father would say to me, whenever I brought a report back, he'd say, yes, I'm training you to employ Ian Smith.
Yes.
I don't want you to be employed by Ian Smith. That sort of a thing. So this is what was ingrained in...
Here, I love your dad already. What were your parents' names, Auntie Maggie?
My father was Sixpence Simpson, and my mother was Victoria Zvichanzi.
Yes, I already love Sekru Sixpence and we are Victoria. They sound so cool. Formidable.
Amazing.
We didn't think so when we were growing up. We thought they were very cruel.
Yes.
Until after the qualifications and after our life, then we went back and said, thank you.
Yes.
We didn't realize what you were doing.
The strictness, I don't know about the strictness. But I mean the ambition they had for you as their children, for you as a girl child. That ambition, that's something I love. And it's funny because the podcast is an audio podcast. So the irony in Auntie Maggie saying that she wasn't allowed to dress up because she's looking fly, she's dressed up, she's wearing a hat, she's wearing earrings, she's wearing red from head to toe. Guys, I'm actually wondering if I should have dressed up more. She's a diva.
Dressed to the nines. She's got a signature scent from afar. Like what?
No, but it was a it is a reaction to how I grew up. I said to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to wear the best shoes.
Yes.
I'm going to wear the best dresses. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And as soon as I started working, you won't believe it, Chenai, I started looking after myself.
Yes.
And I just believed that I must look good. But my mother was like that. Mm-hmm. My mother was, well dressed from top to toe. And she always encouraged us to buy good quality stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we called it good quality. Then we would go to Amato or the Indian section of the stores.
Yes.
We could go to H.M. Baba or the things like that because of the discrimination. But yeah, we dressed. She dressed well. For a person who was buying her clothes from Amato.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't know anything about Amato. Chenai, can ask your mother. I think he was an Indian or Jew. And the shops, downtown. What is Julius Nyerere now? Just that part before the traffic lights. That's where Amato was. So, come to the bus stop with all these buses carrying us. There were no chauffeurs that time. So come to by bus and then the first part of town and you go to Amato. The people with who had guts would go to OK or Baba. I can't remember some of the names there. Some of the shops are no longer there. But we would go to the part that was the Amwenye, the Indians, and anybody who sells, we had shops away from central Harare. That's where we did our shopping.
So, Auntie Maggie, you mentioned that you met your husband in Birmingham.
You won't believe this. I was just looking at a magazine and I wanted to go abroad. We knew about London. I didn't know about Birmingham. And he says, opportunities in Birmingham, the best place to live. And I said, this is the place.
Yes.
And I applied. And I went to do my midwifery in the UK.
Auntie, you just applied by yourself. You didn't know anyone in Birmingham. You just applied from a magazine.
Yes, listen, I'd gone to Malawi on my own when I was young. Instead of doing my nurse training at Harare, when I went for interview, they said there are two places, Bulawayo, Mpilo. I'd never heard of Mpilo, and the Harare Hospital. Then I said, I want to be in Mpilo, away from the parents so I can have a good time. That's how I chose Bulawayo. And there was no one to look after me. I was always looking after myself. I never thought there was anybody who would look after me. So after Bulawayo, after 3 years and worked for 2 years, I then went to the UK, Birmingham. Whilst I was doing training, that's when I met my husband. He was also studying at one of the colleges in Birmingham.
Auntie Maggie, I want to hear more about Birmingham. What was it like for you going from Zimbabwe? What was it like when you got to Birmingham? When you got to London? That was in the 1970s, right? Being a young Zimbabwean woman, arriving there by yourself, Murimega, in this new country. How was it?
We're not Zimbabweans, we're Rhodesians before independence. So I got to Birmingham. It was a cultural shock. from what I'd been taught. And mind you, I'd never been in the company of whites per se. You know, we had a sprinkling of whites as our teachers and whatnot. But here I was in Birmingham in the same class with whites. And there were 3 blacks, 2 West Indians and myself. So when I got to Birmingham, I met 2 Zimbabwean, 2 Rhodesian girls. One was already a sister working in the Birmingham maternity. It was a new hospital, so it didn't have a lot of people from outside. And one was a staff nurse. So it was really challenging. And that was the time of liberation. We were trying to liberate ourselves. Then somebody said to me, you know, there are Rhodesians who meet every weekend to try and plot ways and means of getting independent from this Ian Smith. So when I got there was this gentleman there who said, somehow I just stood out in the group, and the gentleman says, we want to vote for you so that you become a member of the executive to run this organization. So they mentioned my name, Margaret Chidzonga. And everybody was, who is he? Who is Margaret? And then Edwin Chidzonga. We competed against each other for the same post. So we get outside.
That's your future husband. Ah!
Yeah. we get outside. There's this gentleman, very tall with an afro and really full of himself. And he says, and who might you be? That was his question. Who might you be? So I said, I'm Margaret. He says, Margaret from where? I said, from Harare. I'm telling him a bit of my life whilst we are waiting for, the results. And then when we were then called in, and up to now, we argue as to who became the secretary or the organizing secretary. And I'm always saying I'm the one who became a secretary. And he says, how could they have chosen you when they didn't know you? And we have never resolved that question up to now. You ask Uncle Edwin, he will say to you, this woman, I beat her in the elections. And I'm saying, this man, I beat him in the elections. And that meant we were talking. And from there onwards, the rest is history.
What a story.
I wish I could be a fly on the wall and watch you two going at each other, competing with each other. That's a wonderful love story.
It really is. How long did you live together in Birmingham before coming back to Zim and then carrying on with the rest of history?
Okay.
How did you come to end up living around the world? What took you to all the different places? Where have you lived?
Okay, after high school, I went to Mpilo, Bulawayo, and that's where I did my SRA nurse training. And then I worked for 2 years. After that, I went to the UK, Birmingham. We lived together, in the same locality for 2 years. And then he came back to Kwekwe because he had done an accounts course with Deloitte. So he was posted to Rhodesia then. So we kept on corresponding. And after I finished my work, I said, I'm not coming to Zimbabwe before I go to university.
Right.
Because I said to myself, if you are married, how do you then go back to university? So that's when I went to London and I did the 3-year course. After that, the war was hotting up. And when I went to Hull to do the master's, he was conscripted into the army, told that, he has got to go and fight. And of course, he had been exposed to politics, and he knew that being conscripted in the army, you were fighting for the wrong side. So he skipped the country, went to Malawi, and then he came back to the UK. You see, I'm a trained nurse, and I wanted to do administration in nursing. I went to Hull University, where I did the master's in health service administration. Then he went to Lancaster University whilst I was finishing at Hull University. I started working and he was still in the college doing the master's in finance and accounting. And then 81, my father was very sick. He was actually hospitalized and everybody thought he was going. So I had to come home. So when I did, I went in to look for a job as a nurse administrator. And they said, no, it doesn't work like that. You had to have worked as a nurse. And of course, I'd taken a shortcut. But it wasn't a bad choice because then the hospitals were being administered by pharmacist secretaries. So they said they are not correct. So I was one of those people who had the right qualification. I was the first female administrator for Harare Hospital. Now I'm administering nurses, doctors, everybody, administering the hospital. It was really central. So, I never then went back into nursing, bedside nursing or nursing administration. That's the route I took after 1981. Okay, 1981 because independence was 1980. Okay. And then I was the one who came home first. A year later, he followed.
Right.
Yeah, so we then were together since 82.
That's beautiful.
Auntie Maggie, can I ask about the organization that you may or may not have been the secretary of? What kinds of things were you doing in that organization? Were you raising money to send back to help further the cause? What was your main activity?
Okay, it was an organization to conscientize the Rhodesians, the Africans, that we are here as strangers. We've got to go to our own country. We've got to fight for our own country. We have fighters in Mozambique and Zambia who needs our support. So whilst we're there, we're raising clothes, money, you name it, sourcing medicines. And then would send to Mozambique via most of the leaders. All these, the politicians, they would come to England to ask us for things and so forth. We would put together the things and they would be shipped to Zambia. It was mostly Mozambique and Zambia. Yeah. So that's the sort of organization we're involved in. And it was both male and female. And they would also come and do recruitments. Like they wanted nurses. I also put my name down to go and to Mozambique to be, a nurse. But for me, my brother, number 3 in our family, had crossed over from UK. He came from UZ. They were expelled, and then he came to UZ. After UZ, he did his first degree and said, I'm going to Mozambique to fight. So he went before me. And whilst he was there, because Comrade Mzenda, the vice president, was in the same class with my father and they were best of friends. So when my brother arrived there, Comrade Mzenda recognized him and said, you look like my friend so-and-so. Are you the son? And he said, yes. So once he was there, that's when I also indicated the fact that I'd been recruited and I was going to go with the likes of, I don't know whether you know, Felix Mchemwa, who became a Minister of Health. We were in Birmingham together. So I'd put my name down, and then my brother gave Mr. Mzenda a note. He didn't know what was in there, and he brought it to England on one of the journeys. And he gave it to me, and my brother said, don't come. It's not what you think. For women, it's worse. He's the one who discouraged me. We laugh about it now because then he says you would not have liked it because the women were not treated the way you think. So that's what happened.
You're actually teaching us right now. You're really at the forefront of a lot of history, things I didn't know.
It's nice to have someone listen to your story. I didn't think it was marvelous or anything. But, when other people are listening, especially, and you always feel like a little girl.
You're listening to Extraordinary Conversations with askChenai. But have you actually asked Chenai yet? Are you drowning in admin? Think you can't afford to hire help? Think again. At askChenai, we match busy people with smart, reliable virtual assistants, all based in Harare, Zimbabwe. And our packages start at just £159 per month. I'm Chenai, and I built this business because I was tired of wasting money on flaky freelancers. I needed support I could actually trust, so I went back to my roots and tapped into one of the most talented workforces on the planet. Our team are not your ordinary virtual assistants. They're extraordinary for extraordinary executives. Stop drowning in your to-dos. Start focusing on what really matters. Whether you're a founder, freelancer, or time-starved exec, askChenai is your unfair advantage. Visit askChenai.com or email sales@askChenai.com to find out more. Let's help you get your time back.
Thank you so much for your honesty and your insights, Aunt Maggie. I'm wondering and curious, with all the traveling that you did and all these different experiences, how did that influence who you are as a Zimbabwean woman or your identity as a Zimbabwean?
It actually changed me, Vimbai. If you think of the roles when you are growing up at home in, we'll say, Zimbabwe now, where girls are trained to be domesticated and good wives and submit to your husbands and things like that. I know in the Bible it says that, but the men have got to respect us as well. So, but because of all these cultures and all the places I visited, it really just, I don't know, it strengthened my character, which was not typical African girl child. I was always up and about and tomboy, because 3 brothers come after me.
Right.
So there was no, experience with the girls. It was always with the boys. So I always wanted to jump about and be tomboyish. And of course, if my mother tries to say, go to the kitchen and cook and whatnot, I would find it very difficult because I want to play. And then my mother had this thing where the boys were also trained to do girls' work. So each one, we had rosters where we cooked and so forth. So to me, that is how people should be. It wasn't about girls and boys. It was just children must do what they are told by their parents. Now I go to to UK, and that was the flower power time, and you can imagine all these ideas coming in, liberation and so forth, and we were all participating in that. I would go out anytime I wanted, and I would look after myself. So it just, I don't know whether it liberated me, but it changed me. I was then looking at life differently. A woman is as good as a man. I know there are certain things that I can't do that he does, but if you ask me to look after our household, I'll do that. Why does it have to be a man? I can do it. But having said that, I didn't think that if you got someone who you loved and you agree on what you are on about, you'd disrespect him and say, but you are just like me, go and wash plates. No. It was this thing where mutual understanding and doing things together. So at the end of the day, I ended up not being a typical African woman. So that's what happened to me after going to all these capitals or places that I lived in.
And do you think not being a typical African woman has been a lonely journey? Because I feel like maybe you would be misunderstood quite often.
Yes, I'm always misunderstood, but I will stand for what I believe in. And for women, you are supposed to do certain things, and men are supposed to do certain things, and you are not allowed in certain places. You cannot ask questions anyhow. For me, if I've got a question, I'll ask it anyway, in church or in a group. So I found that I had other women who also believed in what I was doing. So I didn't even stop to think of whether they should support me or not. If I thought I was right or if I thought I'm right, I'll go for it. That's me. I'll go for it. No apology.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that, Auntie Maggie. And I know you talked about your life in the 70s, obviously being in the UK during the flower power time, as you call it. But later on, you also lived abroad. I know you came back to Zimbabwe, and then you did end up leaving for a while, because I know I'm very good friends with your son. I know he talks about living in Switzerland when they were young. How did you come to live in Switzerland then? Was it in the 1990s?
Yes, it was. My husband ended up working for Minerals Marketing of Zimbabwe. So they were opening an office in Zurich, and he was chosen to be the first representative there. So he had to go with his family. So that's how we got to Switzerland.
How long did you live there?
5 years. Almost 6.
And that was when you had 3 small children?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Ooh.
And what was that like, moving to a new country when you have small children? I'm sure you didn't get to have maids and things like that like you had in Zimbabwe.
No, we had no maids. I was looking after the children, taking them to school, looking after them generally, from cooking, their homework, washing them, doing laundry, cleaning. It was murder for me. Imagine we had all this, a gardener and a maid. I then go to a place where I didn't have a maid. So it was really a traumatic experience. And when I got there, I actually got a bit depressed, because the Swiss, as you know, are not very open to strangers. It will take them a long time. They always say after 10 years, that's when they will accept you. So that time, I was alone. I didn't know the language. And, it was really a traumatic time. But because of my mother's strength, one day I called and I was so depressed, this place and that place. And my mother says, "You are a very stupid girl. Why can't you learn what's happening there?" I said, "But I can't speak the language." "Why don't you learn the language? Go and play tennis. Go and play, golf." I didn't know anything about golf then. "Go and do something. Enjoy yourself with the girls. Can't you just drive around and see what's happening?" And after that, honestly, I was healed, and I started having a whale of a time. And our children were going to an international school, so our friends were from all over the world and not Swiss. So we had our own life. We would go out, and we had this thing where we'd have Monday to Friday, it's school time. Friday afternoon, everybody packed their bags and they went into the country or across the, France, Italy, whatever. You just went across the borders. You have your things in the boot. You get to an inn, you book, and you stay the weekend. Sunday, you are back into Zurich. Monday, we are back to school. That was our life. So you can imagine we got to do various things just to entertain ourselves, not relying on our host country, people.
So did you learn some of the language, or were your children fluent? Were they your translators?
Yeah, they were in an English-speaking school, so they didn't learn the language that easily. But for me, I went for language courses, which I couldn't manage well, because you were learning High Deutsch. And yet the street, they speak Swiss Deutsch, which is a slapper.
Right.
And it's not written. You can go to different areas, you will not speak the
different.
same. Yeah. So I can swear and do all sorts of things.
Important thing.
Yes. But, if I see a German text, I can read, rudimentally. Okay. But I never really got fluent because of that problem.
Yeah, that is very hard. The fact that it's what's written is not what's spoken. And also a lot of Swiss people, they would rather speak English than Hochdeutsch. People say, "Die Schweizer sprechen lieber Englisch als Hochdeutsch," because they don't like German people. They don't like German people, so they don't want to speak German. They only want to speak their dialect, or we might as well speak English.
True.
What I like though, Chenai, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in all the conversations that we keep having, the main thing I keep hearing is how you actually create your own circles, your own community. How you did it with the children and the children's school and the community and the friends that you had around you who were not necessarily Swiss. I like that, because I guess it's how we do it that differs, but you literally create your own community. I like that.
Auntie Maggie, you are an entrepreneur in your own right. I'm assuming in the years in Zurich, you were not working because you were doing primary childcare. When did you begin your journey into entrepreneurship, which is now, I think, what you are primarily known for, what you do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, after Switzerland, we came back, and my husband was now working for one of the banks. Then he was sent to London for a couple of years. And of course, being when you accompany your husband, you are not allowed to work. So after I got there, my sister bought a business, hairdressing. So we did a hairdressing business in Strathaven. Mm-hmm. So then she said to me, do you know that people are always asking for beauty treatments? So they would want to have body massage, nails, and things like that. So I said, okay. So whilst I was a housewife in the UK, the children were in boarding school at home. So I was alone with my husband. That's when I embarked on a course of beauty. For 1 year, I did beauty care and body massage. So after that, I came back and we opened a branch of the beauty care, and I was in charge of it. My sister was working for one of the American agencies, so I was doing the running around. And whilst doing that, that's when Finbath, it was under a lady called Meryl, a white lady. So she was tired of the business. The hotel that she was operating from had been bought by Machipisa. So it was Machipisa hotel or Machipisa something. So you know what these white people will be like, they just didn't want to be associated. So that's when I bought the business and I started running the beauty part of it. Okay. I didn't do the hair on this side, it's the beauty. And from then on, the rest is history. I was into all sorts of things, really an entrepreneur, not a professional woman like I was before. So that's why I started doing the entrepreneurial work.
Was it hard to start a business? Many of the people who are listening are also women who are thinking of beginning their entrepreneurial journey. Vimbai and I, we are entrepreneurs. We are running askChenai, a startup in Zimbabwe. What are the hard moments and lessons you can share with us on building something from scratch?
Okay, I don't know whether you will face the same problem, but for us, we didn't do any research to see what people wanted. Anyone who was doing business was either doing hair or beauty was not very common with the blacks, sewing, doing all sorts of things, all these other courses. So we just went into it without doing research to see what is wanted by people. So it was quite difficult. You had to break into the system. And for me, when I started the beauty thing, I was one of the few blacks then. And this was a place that was run by whites. Of course, it was patronized by blacks. But the moment a black person comes, they will say, the standards are going down. So I had to fight that and say, no, a business is a business, and I'll put a model where excellence is what we aspire for. So this is what, how I started the whole thing. And when I started Finbath, you won't believe this, it was almost a brothel. And, they were doing all sorts of hanky-panky. So when I took over, my husband's friends actually told him that your wife is taking over, is doing a brothel work. And he comes to me and he says, are you aware? I said, yes, I'm aware. I'm going to clean that place. So in 6 months' time, we cleaned the place and we said we do massages and beauty treatments If you don't want that, you can go. So people who were coming abroad, Indians and all these foreigners, Germans and French, they would come and they would say, how much is, hanky-panky or whatever. And we said, no.
The happy ending.
We don't do that. And they would, offer you tons of money. And we had therapists who were doing that. I got rid of them. And then we cleaned the place, my dear, and it just became a business place. And then because I am trained, I had to bring my own style of massage and way to do the beauty. So it became the Finbath way. And I'm telling you, we just cornered the markets. We had white people coming back, especially farmers. We had such a big group. It all ended, 2000. Then the whites started going to white-owned saloon. But that didn't deter us because our class of blacks was beginning to appreciate beauty. You know that beauty and massages are not, as far as people were concerned, that's not a priority. You go to those places if you've got extra money in your pocket. But we changed all that and said it's a way of living. We taught wellness and told people what the benefits are. And from that time, my dear, it looked good. It looked good and things were really working our way.
There's one of my favorite books about business strategy. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. And it's the idea that the best businesses, especially if it's a new venture, they don't go to areas where there's like a lot of competition, a lot of fish fighting in the water, there's blood in the water, it's all red. You almost go to an area where there's no competition because you're creating a new market. It's something nobody else even thought to do, thought to create it. And in some ways you did that because you talk about how there were a lot of hairdressers, fine. There were spas that were catering towards white people, fine. But you brought a service to middle class, upper middle class, black clientele who had never thought of doing it. And that's really cool. You created a new market, a new niche. So, Auntie Maggie, you're a marriage counsellor. How do you work with your clients? How did you become a marriage counsellor? Is that something you're happy to talk about?
Yes. What happened is, first of all, I am a counsellor, period. And then marriage counseling is one of the counseling that we do. You can do bereavement, you can do whatever, drugs and anything. You counsel anything. But what really gravitated me towards counseling was that with beauty, it's a wellness, people's wellness. And when you are a therapist, whilst you are massaging a client, if they've got issues, they will end up telling you, I'm having trouble with my husband or my kids are this, that, and the other. And you are supposed to really encourage them to open up and relax. So I ended up thinking, why don't I do the right thing and go for a counseling course, and make sure that I help people with that. So that's what.
Because otherwise, if they're telling you personal things, maybe when you start they'll say something and then you maybe don't respond the right way if you haven't gone for a course.
But our course as a therapist was that we don't talk. You might be lying there and then you tell me that my husband is cheating and all that, and you are just encouraging the person to say what's in their mind. There's no way you can say sorry, so what are you going to do or whatever. No, you're supposed to just listen. You're supposed to listen.
Musi.
No. That's what I would do. I'd be like, Musi,
I'll be so ready to say go.
No. So, with our course, the beauty therapy, is that you just relax. Because all you want is a relaxed client so that, circulation improves and all that. So you are also able to say to a client, why don't you go for counseling?
Right.
Why do you not go to see the doctor? Supposing they tell you that they've got a problem, I'm bleeding all the time, or I've got this, whatever. You are supposed to then say, why don't you go for such and such, or this, that, and the other, and whatnot? Because we were not trained to do proper counseling.
Right.
But that's how I then started going for, I said to myself, let me just normalize this thing and then I can help like clients. So whilst I was doing massages, facials and whatnot, I would get clients and I would say to them, it's up to you. If you want, I can take you. But this is outside the beauty treatment and it's done away from here. So that's how I got into it. So I would do counseling of all sorts. Yeah, but it ended up as a hobby because for some reason I just managed to attract people who were not willing to pay. But blacks, counseling is not something that we people believed in. Even now, the people go for counseling, but they will always say, if you say to someone, go for counseling, do I need a psychiatrist? What are you saying? But no, every one of us, even as I am, I need counseling, just to get in touch with myself and to know, what my strengths and my weaknesses are and how to handle it. That's how I got into counseling.
So you have been a wife and a mother. Where did you draw that strength from? You've mentioned how pivotal a role your mother played in your upbringing and all of that.
And what was it like becoming a mother?
Okay, to start with, I was one of the, I call it less fortunate. All my mates between 25 and 30 were married with children. I was one of those who married late at 27, 28. I'm sure that's late then because people were marrying at 21, 22. And then we didn't have children for 5 years, which means that my first child, I was 33. Kuda was born when I was 33. So you can imagine I was already mature. So it was not like, I was young. So when I started my family, I was ready. And of course, people had talked about the fact that, they've no children. How can people get married and not have children? So it was really another pressure from the families and people who were talking negatively about the whole thing. And after we had given up, we said, okay, when we got married, we didn't know that we were going to have children. We don't. So let's have a good time.
Yeah.
So that year, 83, we were putting money together to go to Los Angeles for the Olympic Games. They were in Los Angeles that year. And me and my husband, were busy planning that. And before I knew it, I was vomiting in the morning. And I thought to myself, oh, what is this? And then I went to the doctor. My doctor was, a GP. So when I got there, he asked me, he says, are you pregnant? I said, no, I don't think I can get pregnant. He says, oh, do you mind if I check? So I said, oh, okay. So he checks. He says, you seem to have a fundus, which means that your uterus is grown or whatever. So I said, I don't think so. Maybe I haven't gone to the toilet to relieve myself. So he took a sample of urine and he went to the lab. And the lab says she's pregnant. And he comes, he says, you're 4 months pregnant. That's how it happened.
Right.
I was 4 months and I didn't even know. So then, when I got home, and I broke the news to my husband. We were using one car. I was picking him because he was in town. I was coming from Harare hospital. Then we went home. I didn't tell him. And we got home and I said, oh, I've got some news. So he was just dismissing me because he wanted to go and drink with the guys. Have one for the road or whatever. So I said, I'm pregnant. And the question he asked me, he says, from whom? And I laughed. I said, I'm thinking it's yours. He says, what? So I showed him the results. He was so overjoyed. He went to drink with the guys and he came home. He was so drunk.
Aww.
So,
Do you know why I love that story, Auntie Maggie, because so many women, like, you talk about how you were married for 5 years and then you kind of decided, maybe it's not for me. There are a lot of women who are in the same boat, especially young women. They think, hey, it's not happening. But in your story, you talked about how you decided, do you know what, I'm just going to enjoy my life. And then the minute you decided to come to terms with it, to make peace with it. And it's, for me, it's also very personal because I struggled also to have my daughter. And I only have one child. I always dreamed of having many. I thought I was going to have lots and lots and lots of children, but my life has not turned out that way. But it was a step change for me when I decided to just make peace with it. I was like, do you know what? I'm blessed. I'm happy. I have a lot in life, and I make peace with it, and to be happy. And for some people, I hear the story a lot. With once you make peace with it, sometimes things will change, but sometimes maybe they don't. But the important thing is making peace with where you are in life and being happy. But you went on to have lots of children, so I also hear the story of people who think they couldn't have kids, then they come to terms with it, then suddenly they have lots of children. But yeah.
And how did your identity shift when you became a wife and mother, and then also being able to hold on to who Maggie is?
You know, to be honest with you, I always think to myself that nothing changed. I was Margaret, we had kids, and Margaret, who was a working mother. I know how you plan to have the children looked after. We had maids. So that didn't change my life. I was just a career woman with kids. So the children were a blessing to me, and I loved having them around, but they did not change anything as far as I'm concerned. They were there. I didn't really shift my life and say, oh, now that I've got kids, I've got to stop doing this or that. No, I went to work with all the children. And I believe that I didn't change anything. And when I became a wife, it was having a partner, and we are married and we are friends. So let's have a good time together. It was something like that. We were always going disco and all that and all that. It was just a well of a time before the kids. And when they came, we would take them to my parents. My parents were here in Harare. We'd take them to my parents and we'd go for a weekend, say Karibo or whatever, and come back. The kids were well looked after. There was nothing. So I really didn't change my life. I don't believe I did. It was just business as usual.
And I must say, your kids love you. I'm saying that because I'm very good friends with your son. He thinks you are the bee's knees. And when it comes around the podcast, you have made a very strong impression on them. You're a strong woman, and I think the kind of woman you are as a mother, especially raising sons, you have the power to shape them in unimaginable ways. And you've done very well by virtue of the fact that you are a powerful woman. You're a strong woman. And you showed them by example. They really, really respect and admire you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good to know.
So your parents were very strict and they were disciplinarians, and you went to like the same kind of mentality in terms of schools. Did that make you a disciplinarian as well, or have you become one of those softer, gentle parents?
Okay, I think I have that aspect because my husband is very soft. He was very lenient with the children. But I was the one who would tell them to do this, that, and the other, and this cannot be done and whatever. But they always used to play us against each other. I would say no, and they went behind my back, and the Baba would say yes. But I am the disciplinarian even up to now. If they talk to both of us, I always have my own ideas, and I'll express them, and I expect people to listen. Yes. So I am the disciplinarian. I think it's better, but I'm sure the kids will say it's worse. You know how it is. Generation gap.
I like even when you say it, you can see the authority in there. Like it's amazing. Yeah. What lessons would you share with, I'm asking for myself and my many friends out there, but what lessons would you share with younger women today, especially those who are trying to balance love, motherhood, dreams, all of that?
Okay, Vimbai, for me, I like to champion girl children problems or movement. Right. What I would say to women, young ones, is you must know yourself. Who are you? And when you know yourself and love yourself, then you are able to love anybody else. That's one. The second thing, there's no competition. I see Vimbai driving a Benz or whatever. That's Vimbai. I don't have the money to buy that. I'm going to buy is it Vitz or whatever small car or what I afford. And then that way you know that you are within your territory. And once you get used to the fact that you must do what is good for you and what is within your perimeter or boundaries, you're okay. But first of all, love yourself. You must know who you are. Who is Vimbai? Do you love yourself? I mean, you go on the mirror, you look at yourself and you say, oh, I have to have this. And if you look at, if I take my hair off, I've got red hair. So, that sort of thing. I just love to dress for myself, not for my husband. I dress for myself. So, youngsters should learn to do things for themselves, not for anybody. I don't want to see someone dressed. Hey, looking smart. So, I've done this for my husband. Or for my boyfriend. No, why can't you do it for yourself? Be good. Look good. And every time you are going out, you go on the mirror and you say, oh, Margaret, I'm looking good.
Yes.
You're saying that to yourself. So that's what I wish the youngsters of today would do. And, if when you know yourselves, you will not let anyone walk all over you because you know who you are and what you want. And all these traditional roles where, you can't leave your husband. No, it's not allowed. That is something that shouldn't be said to anyone. You know when you want to leave because of, the reason. So do so. You don't need to be told by anyone. That's me talking to the youngsters.
Phenomenal. Thank you. This is like a permission slip. This is a vote of confidence. This is encouragement. Thank you so much. So you've given us so much advice and I'm super excited for this. I'm going to start with myself. But let's fast forward to when you're 60 now. So that's you're 85. You're sitting
65
down.
and 85.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're 65-year-old, your 85-year-old self and your 16-year-old self are having a conversation.
When I was 16?
Yes.
When I saw that question, I laughed. I said, at 16, I was a child. I wanted to be protected. And I wanted to enjoy my parents, those with parents. And whoever is your guardian and whoever is looking after you, a 16-year-old, there's no care in the world. You are just floating. You don't know anything. And, you are just starting life. Some have not even had boyfriends at 16. So really, that's the best time of your life, where you are just going to be floating about doing whatever, as long as you do it within what your parents or the guidelines say. You don't want to go outside and do things that you regret later, because after 16 you're still going to reflect and say, oh, at 16 that's what I did. And you are ashamed of yourself. So, but that's a very nice age where you don't care about anybody or anything.
So if you're to have a conversation with yourself at 16, what are you talking about?
At 16, like I'm saying, my
So
day.
if you're today self-old, and if I'm your 16-year-old self, what would you want to say to your 16-year-old self?
I think the question is, imagine you're at a dinner table. You're having a dinner party. And in this scenario, the guests at the dinner party are yourself today. The other guest is yourself, but when you were a 16-year-old child. And the other guest is your future self. So you, when you're an 85-year-old woman. And the three of you are three women sitting at the table together. What are you talking about with different versions of yourself?
I don't know. I thought I answered it. At 16, like I said, I would say, well, I want to go and get ice cream. I'm going to meet my friends, Chenai and Vimbai, and we are going to go for a movie. Or we are just going to spend the day at Vimbai's place. Then we crash at Chenai's place, a pajama party or whatever party. We've got our friends from school, so we'll all be there.
Everybody there's no right or wrong answer. Some people say I would tell my younger self advice. I would say, don't marry that man, he's terrible. I would say, don't forget to get a test for breast cancer at 25 because I realized I had breast cancer at 25. So it can be anything, a message to your younger self. But I said I would just be talking about grudges. So really...
Okay, so now I'm saying we have started with the sick daddy. That's the sort of conversation I would have. Yeah. But you wanted the 85 as well. Oh, you are coming to the 85.
No, that's fine. Everybody gives a different answer. Cool. Auntie Maggie, this conversation has been absolutely amazing. You are my favorite kind of woman. A life well lived. You're full of wisdom. You're full of flair. You're full of spark. I have a signature question, which you are not going to get away from answering it. Auntie Maggie, do you like horror movies? Do you watch movies about zombies?
No. I was so scared of them.
I think I already know her answer, but let's go.
Good. This is going to make it even better. So I like movies about zombies. And I like those movies, you know, where someone becomes a zombie and they start chasing everybody around. And then people have to figure out, what are we going to do in the zombie world? So one of the ways I often test someone's thinking, or just to understand them a little bit, is to ask, imagine you're in one of those horror movie worlds and the zombies are taking over the world. You have three options. Option one is to say, I think I want to be a zombie because it's easiest to be a zombie. Option B is to say, I don't want to live in this world. I'd rather just be dead. And then option 3 is to say, I will fight the zombies. I will take my weapons and fight and try to live. Which option would you take and why?
You can almost guess I'll take C. And I'll fight the zombies. I'll kill them.
Coming.
You saw it coming.
I saw it coming.
I'll kill them. I would fight to the bitter end.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a way of fighting the zombies. I'll find it and I'll use it.
With
Kill
her
them
bare
all.
hands, I see Aunt Maggie killing them with her. No need for machete.
Do you know what? I'm sorry. I'm so sad this is an audio podcast because you guys should have seen her face when she said, I'll fight to the bitter end. She even had... You're listening to Extraordinary Conversations with askChenai. But have you actually asked Chenai yet? Are you drowning in admin? Are you juggling a packed calendar, relentless responsibilities, and a million things on your to-do list that never seem to get ticked off? At askChenai, we understand that your time isn't just valuable, it's irreplaceable. That's why we match busy people with smart, reliable virtual assistants, all based in Harare, Zimbabwe, who can take life admin off your plate. Think you can't afford to hire help? Think again. Our packages start at just £159 per month. I'm Chenai, and I built this business because I was burnt out trying to do everything myself. So I created the service I wish I had, run by a team of brilliant, educated assistants trained to move fast and get things done. We're not your ordinary virtual assistants. We're extraordinary for extraordinary humans. To find out more, visit www.askchenai.com or email sales@askchenai.com. Let's help get your time back and your life back. like a machine gun style on her hands. I believe you. I believe you. I believe you.
Thank you so much, Aunt Maggie. This has been absolutely amazing.
Oh, so I know. Thank you very much for thinking of me, you girls, and it's been a pleasure. So I'm even wondering whether I'm going to listen to what I said. Because some of the
You and you will absolutely love it. I think my biggest takeaway is live life on your own terms. Like,
Yes.
just enjoy.
Oh, yes.
I think every answer kind of like summed up to have fun.
Yes.
So
Life is very short,
Yeah.
if you see what I mean. I mean, we are all saying, I'll do it next year, in 2 years' time. Who has promised you 2 years? You could die today and you have not had a good time. You know, that sort of a thing. So that's where, my kind of thinking. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Thank you so much, Auntie. Absolutely amazing. If you loved this episode, do us a solid. Hit follow if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube. Don't be stingy. Share it with your people. And if you know somebody with an extraordinary story to tell who can compete for the prize of Final Boss of Zim Aunties, this is where their voice can go far and wide. And who knows, it might even be you listening right now. Reach out and let us know. Until then, we'll be back next week with another extraordinary conversation. Stay well, my friends, and thanks for listening. You're listening to Extraordinary Conversations with askChenai. But have you actually asked Chenai yet? Are you drowning in admin? Are you juggling a packed calendar, relentless responsibilities, and a million things on your to-do list that never seem to get ticked off? At askChenai, we understand that your time isn't just valuable, it's irreplaceable. That's why we match busy people with smart, reliable virtual assistants, all based in Harare, Zimbabwe, who can take life admin off your plate. Think you can't afford to hire help? Think again. Our packages start at just £159 per month. I'm Chenai, and I built this business because I was burnt out trying to do everything myself. So I created the service I wish I had, run by a team of brilliant, educated assistants trained to move fast and get things done. We're not your ordinary virtual assistants. We're extraordinary for extraordinary humans. To find out more, visit www.askchenai.com or email sales@askchenai.com. Let's help get your time and your life back.